everybody. We're going to give everybody a minute or so to roll in. We got a big crew as usual, so excited to have you all.
Officially game time, bullets flying all over the place. So hopefully you guys are settled. Hopefully we can bring answer some of the most pertinent questions as we always seek out to do. But let's like we always like to kick it off. Tell us where you're at in the country. Where are you? I'm here in the.
Let me make sure chat is enabled here.
Yeah. I'm in the Halloween capital of the world here in Salem, Mass. We got Peggy out there in Seattle. We're all over again, Peggy. North Carolina's right out of the bat. I'm actually going to be in North Carolina tomorrow. My first time to Asheville, which I hear is lovely, especially this time of year. So if you have any recommendations, anybody familiar with Asheville, feel free.
I haven't been there, but I know it's a huge, because my mom lives in Chapel Hill. I got to get up there, but I know you will love this. A lot of like different brew pubs kind of deal.
Breweries, hippies. I'm all about that. And yeah, going down there for a wedding and very much the brewery hippie type of crowd. So
that's a great place for a wedding this time of year. Awesome.
Yeah, we're all over, guys, per usual, all over the country here.
Montclair, that's where I got married. So also what you could put in there, which is great, which we forgot to mention, is just the graduating high school years of your kids. It's always great to see. There we go. Some 24s, some 25s. Yeah, mostly 24s and 25s. And you are not too early if you're 25 or 26. You will learn a lot of great stuff that's super valuable. The more you know, the sooner, the better, honestly. So, okay, a couple housekeeping things before we kick off. Matt and I love questions. We will do our best to get to everybody. We probably won't, but we'll do our best. Please put the questions in the Q&A. We'll remind you, we just asked you to put stuff in the chat. We might ask you to do that again, but questions go in the Q&A. It's one place for us to look, and you can be anonymous if you want to. So if it's something a little personal, just click that box and you're good to go. This is being recorded and you will get the recording. So don't worry if you get distracted or if you want your partner or spouse or child or whatever to watch it with you later, you're good to go. Okay. Oh, there's twins. Yay.
Twinsies. Make sure you stick around to the end though, no matter what, or if you leave, come back and watch a recording of the end. Because we have, as we typically do, for those of you that have been with us before, we have kind of live only today only opportunities for those of you that stick around for the end here and make sure that you guys are nailing this thing here, right? And especially if you class 2024 families that are in the throes of it. So very quickly, for those of you that are new, we'll do some quick intros before we get into the content. My name is Matt Carpenter. I'm one of the founders at College Aid Pro. Class of 2024 is the 19th class that I've guided through this process. So coming up on 2 decades here. So I have done this many thousands of times over. So I have a deep appreciation and I think empathy. And I think even though I haven't lived it and breathed it myself as a parent, I think I'm the next closest in terms of understanding what you all are going through right now. And it is something that we say every day, internally and externally, is it's your kids and it's your money. No kidding, you're feeling anxious and overwhelmed. And there's so much different information, mainstream media, your friends, your family that have been through it before. And I think everybody by and large means well, but it's so hard to make blanket recommendations because every family is unique, every student's unique, and every college runs their business differently. And it changes every year, right? Especially this year with these massive changes that you all, class 2024 families, are the guinea pigs for. So anyways, our goal is to just help you kind of shine a light on what's going on here. Obviously, the talking point today is like, what is our source of truth in figuring out what these schools are actually going to cost us, and kind of everything that comes with that. And of course, as we typically do, hopefully we'll sprinkle in some other tidbits of knowledge. But I think you're in great hands here today. Peggy, the fairy godmother of financial aid here in Seattle, I think is one of the top experts you're going to find on planet Earth around this stuff. But in addition to that fact, she's lived it and breathed it with her own kids, with her twins that she sent to college. So again, I think can feel what you guys are feeling right now to some extent.
Yep. Been there, remember it well. So like I said before, the getting the knowledge, understanding financial aid, and then understanding where you fit, which is what we're going to do today. You are up here instead of being down here in this process. It'll alleviate stress, complexity. And today is really great because we are going to touch on net price calculators, and we're going to talk about a little bit about early decision and early action and how that affects everything. So we've thrown in a few other really relevant tidbits that we don't always have on the agenda. So let me share my screen here and let's kick this off. So as Matt said, or maybe he didn't, we are College Aid Pro, really, and this is our mission. And we're truly intentional about this, to end the student debt crisis by empowering families, which is, of course, you, to shop smarter for college. And the only way you do that is by understanding financial aid in the process. And you're going to see in a few minutes, some of it is counterintuitive. And there we are. So everybody should have received an email last evening. If you didn't, it might be in your spam. And we were encouraging you to set up your free account. And if you did, that's awesome. Have it open over here on another laptop or somewhere where you can be accessing it while we're going through this, because we're going to show you a case study, a sample family. When we're showing you what it means for that family, you can actually be looking at your family and seeing your student aid indexes and are you eligible for need-based aid? A lot of people, and there's probably people on this webinar that showed up like, I'm not eligible. And you might learn during this that you in fact could be, right? And why? Because your family has certain planning opportunities. So Matt put the link in the chat, I'm sure. So if you haven't done it, really encourage you to do it. Just click get started for free. You can put up to 3 schools and you can see your SAIs and play around with your numbers. It's really powerful. And it's a way to get started in this process. So go ahead and do that. And if you have done it, have it available so you can reference it as we move forward here. So let's talk about financial aid. Like I said, understanding financial aid. The key takeaway here is there's this cost of attendance, tuition and fees, room and board, books, travel. This has been going up for decades, as all of us know, right? But all the colleges are discounting. They're all on sale, if you will. It's just a matter of how they're discounting. Some families might not get any discounts at certain schools, whereas another family would get huge discounts. And it just depends on the school and your family's finances and your child and a whole bunch of stuff. But they do this discounting in 3 different ways. So the first one is through need-based grants. And as the name hints, this is if your family has financial need, either the college through their endowment, the state or the federal government will be giving you need-based grants. So this is free money, don't need to repay it, based on need. The second bucket is the flip side. It's free money from college endowments, and it's based on your child, their grades, their test scores, their resume, leadership, sports, music, talents, right? Whatever that happens to be. Again, that's free money. Those are the 2 buckets that you want to maximize, less money out of your portfolio, your checking and savings account, more money out of the college endowments. That's what you want, right? So those are the first 2 buckets. The third bucket we call self-help. Part of a lot of families' funding strategy, not a problem at all. There's loans and there's work study. Reasonable amount of loans, we feel at College Aid Pro are okay for a good college education. That's a whole nother webinar. And then work study, that's where your child gets a job, the government's paying part of the wage, and they get a paycheck. And then you use it as you decide as a family for school. So that can be part of paying for school. It's what the college will offer on a financial aid award letter, but obviously it's not free money, okay? So how do you know if you're eligible for need-based aid? There's a very simple formula, this cost of attendance that I just talked about, minus the student aid index equals your need. So if you have older kids, or if you've been doing reading for the last few years about this or paying attention, you might have heard the term expected family contribution, EFC. That student aid index has replaced the EFC, and we just call it SAI for short, okay? The calculation of the SAI is different in some pretty big ways, and Matt's going to talk about that in a few minutes, but it still is replacing the EFC. So that's how they figure out if you have need. You have to submit the financial aid forms, which we, the FAFSA especially, every student, in our opinion, should be submitting that in the CSS profile pretty much as well. We're going to talk about both those forms, so don't worry if you're not familiar with them. So basically, if a school costs $90,000, which some actually cost more, minus a student aid index, you're looking at our software and you see an SAI at the top of 100,000, say. You don't have any need because it's 90,000 minus 100,000, no need. If you see an SAI of 30,000, 90,000 minus 30, you have 60,000 of need. Doesn't mean the school's going to swoop in and give you those need-based grants I just talked about for 60,000. But that's your need. And we're going to talk about how you can even know what the college might do and projecting what you might get. So let's talk about how this SAI is calculated. There's two main pieces. There's assets of the student and the parent, and there's income of the student and the parent. So let's hit on the assets first. The biggest takeaway here is pretty much all your assets are on the table except for your retirement account. So 401k, 403b, IRA, Roth IRA, a pension. Those are all retirement accounts. The balances in those accounts are not part of the calculation. Everything else is on the table. So that means checking, savings, CDs, a bond portfolio, stock portfolio, whatever that happens to be, and college savings accounts. The most typical one people have is called a 529. If the parent owns the 529, the student's the beneficiary, then that's an asset of the parents. It seems logical. Hey, I'm saving that money for my child, so that would be an asset of theirs. It is not. Not going to go into why. It's the way the IRS has defined that asset. It is owned by the parent. So one of the biggest mistakes that is made on financial aid forms, don't make that mistake, because parent assets are assessed at a much lower percent, up to 5.64, as opposed to 20 or 25% for your child. So that's an asset of the parent. Any other 529s that are owned by grandparents, if you're divorced, the non-custodial parent, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. Anybody who's not submitting the FAFSA, that 529 owner, that asset is not included. So make sure you keep that off the table, okay? Any 529s that you own for your other kids, you're not going to disclose on the FAFSA. And by the way, we're going to do line by lines on the forms, but I'm just trying to give you these tidbits here. If you have a jointly owned account with your child and you're on it, you can put it as your asset. If you have an UGMA or an UTMA, if you don't worry about it. That doesn't mean anything to you. You don't have it. That is an asset of your child's, because it's an IRS definition. It's a gifting. There are ways to get it in your name. You're going to want to talk to us and get some one-on-one professional help before you even consider doing that, because there's tax ramifications. Real estate is also considered an asset. So any real estate you have that's not your primary home is on the table, and it's your equity, which is the market value minus any mortgage or HELOC you have. That difference is your equity. You do not want to overvalue your real estate. You don't want to lie, but you want to find the lowest defensible value. And as we say on the slide here, you can do what's called the IRS quick sale value and take 15-20% off, because as we all know, you don't walk away with all those proceeds. But the key takeaway here is don't overvalue. It's, I need to sell yesterday. There are some schools, and we'll talk about it in a few minutes, that look at the home you live in as well. But the FAFSA does not. It's only secondary real estate, a vacation home or whatever that happens to be. Okay, so that's how the assets work. They are assessed the day you hit submit, if you want to be that detailed. So it's very real time. You have time to do some spending and some planning if that's applicable to your family. The flip side is income. That is prior year, meaning it's a 2-year look back. So it is what it is. If you have a senior, which a lot of people have class of 2024, people have class of 2025, I saw in the chat. So class of 2024, you senior parents, you might even be into the CSS profile at this point. You're noticing all the questions are about 2022. It's gone, right? It's in the rear view mirror. If you have a class of 2025, you're in the tax year that matters. So really tune in here, because you don't want to do things that are going to elevate your income, right? It mostly revolves around line 11, which is your adjusted gross income. Student income matters as well. But as you see here on the FAFSA, the federal side, kids can make over $9,400 and it's a wash. So most kids aren't making that much money. The CSS profile is going to have a student contribution no matter what. But the key takeaway here is it's a 2-year look back. The middle of sophomore year of high school is that year that they're going to ask about senior year. So remember how I said 26 and 27 parents, you're in the right place. Now you know, right? Don't do things to increase your income that you can avoid. So if you're listening to all of this and you're looking at your MyCap account and you're like, all right, Peg, I hear you. I'm not eligible for need-based aid. Well, over half of the people I've worked with over the decade plus I've been doing this, and Matt forever and ever, they don't have need-based eligibility, but that doesn't mean that you can pay $90,000+ a year, or you want to, or it fits into your financial plan. So what do? That's where this second bucket on my slide comes in, the merit scholarships. And so I'm going to turn this over to Matt to chat about those.
You feeling yourself this week, Peggy?
Yeah.
You feeling yourself? You're going to be complimenting yourself again later. Well,
I know. I love my segues. I love
a good segue. All right, look, so Peggy said it, right? Obviously, the focus has been need-based financial aid for a percentage of you. That's not going to be in play outside of the small amount we're entitled to, which is a federal government direct student loan, right? Now, and there's nothing we can do at College Aid Pro or anybody can do to wave a magic wand and change that. So how can you get discounts? Now, obviously, Exhibit A, and we're going to take a close look at this in just a second here via some actual case study stuff. Exhibit A is scholarships, right? Where's my kid going to get merit-based scholarships? And again, we feel like we are the best resource for telling you where that's going to happen and how much, and we'll go prove that in a minute here. But before we do, let's hit on a couple of bullet points here. One of them, and I just put this in chat that said, hey, but that is the fact that some colleges, even if you want to be considered for merit, you have to do the FAFSA and the CSS profile. We always use NYU as a great example because they're one of the most popular schools in the world, at least in terms of the applications they receive. They give merit-based scholarships, but they won't even consider you unless you do the FAFSA and the CSS profile, regardless of your financial situation. Another thing that we like to flag that in our opinion is not common knowledge is the fact that not every college, and there's about 100 of them now, okay, not every college offers merit-based scholarships, right? We use all the time. We use every Ivy League school as an example. There's not one Ivy League school that offers a scholarship, right? Peggy's a proud Cornell alum, and there's not anybody that's walking around the campus of Cornell that's there on a scholarship, even the most talented, gifted kid in the world. So just be aware of that as you're finalizing your list of schools, and especially if you're not eligible for merit, but you have a really smart kid, do the colleges that you're applying to even offer scholarships, okay? And the last one here is that, and again, this is especially true if you're not eligible for need-based aid, but it's so critical that we apply to competing colleges, right? And I actually mentioned this yesterday because I was having a conversation with a family here in Massachusetts that's their top school is WPI, really good engineering school in Central Mass, Worcester Polytech Institute. They hated RPI. Okay, Rensselaer Polytech in Troy, New York, which is another awesome engineering school. I am making them apply to RPI, knowing that there's zero chance the kid's ever going to go to Troy, New York. But what I do know is that RPI is a direct competitor to WPI. This family is not eligible for need-based aid. RPI is going to give a better offer, and then we're going to go back to WPI, and we're going to get more money from them than we did initially. I can all but guarantee you that's how it's going to play out. We have a about 1,000% batting average at those schools and those types of schools. So that's what we're talking about when we're talking about applying to competing colleges. It's just a critical but overlooked part of the process that happens during the appeal part of the process, which I got a ton of questions from some of you guys, and I'll share my screen in a second here, Peg. But a lot of you guys have been asking me, I've had a weird year in 2022, our base income year. What can I do about it? That happens during this appeal part of the process, which is essentially going back to colleges after we get the initial offer to do better than that first offer. So I saw that just about all of you, and Peg, if you can put the link in the chat again, please, I think that'd be helpful. But I saw that just about all of you have already created your MyCap accounts, which is awesome. For those of you that haven't, I recommend you do now, because this is your source of truth. When we talk about, okay, I just listened to Peg, I understand this concept of need-based aid and SAI. I understand the concept of merit, and that has more to do with my kids' credentials and their GPA and their test scores than it does my financial situation. But how is it going to play out for my family, right? It's important that we understand the concepts, but it's mission critical that we understand how it's going to play out for us. So
hey guys, please put your questions in the Q&A. Okay, I just answered one in the chat, but I don't want to encourage, please pop them in the Q&A. We're in there. Sorry, Matt.
I'm just telling you right now, you don't want to make that mistake twice, everybody. Okay, you just heard New Jersey Peggy come out a little bit. Let's keep her Pacific Northwest Peggy, or else. Okay. So listen, to further confuse you guys, right? There's actually two different types of SAIs. Okay. Most colleges that require only the FAFSA use what's called the federal SAI. Okay. And again, that's most colleges. However, a meaningful amount, call it 200 to 300, okay, use what's called the institutional SAI. And for this, usually there is a range, okay? And let's talk about a couple of reasons why. Now, this is a family, right, that lives in my hometown here, or home little city north of Boston, Beverly, Mass. Family of 4, but they are a split household family, right? This is a divorced family. And schools that use the federal methodology only look at one household. They only look at the parent that completes the FAFSA, which now is the parent that provides the most financial support to the student, okay? Whereas most colleges that use the institutional SAI, they're looking at both. So they're going to look at two different households, incomes, assets, etc. The other huge caveat here is that they're looking at home equity. Most colleges that use this institutional SAI consider home equity to some degree. So that's where we see this huge range, right? Because federal SAI schools do not. Now, in a lot of ways, that's more than everybody needs to know. Okay, where I want you focused, what are the net costs at the schools that you guys are considering, right? Ignore these sticker prices. We don't care. I want you focused on what you're going to pay. And this is a great example, right? Amherst, BU, NYU, 3 awesome schools, really competitive schools, really expensive schools, at least on the surface. But look at that $90,000 college for Amherst College is going to be more affordable than the state flagship university at UMass Amherst, right? Why? Well, because they meet 100% in need. Why? Because, well, they don't look at home equity, even though they're an institutional SAI school, okay? Whereas BU, they look at some home equity. NYU, they look at almost all your home equity, and they don't meet 100% of need. So again, I'm telling you more than you need to know, but I want you to focus on what these schools are actually going to cost your family. And let's look at an example of a couple. Just do me a favor in chat. I will allow this in chat. I'll just put a college or two that you guys are thinking about at home. Give us a top choice. And let's actually kind of drill down. Okay, Wake Forest is the first one I saw. Then I saw Virginia Tech, go Hokies. Okay, so Wake Forest, let's take a look here. Very expensive, $90,000 school. This family's only going to pay $31,000. Well, why is that? Okay. Well, because they're going to get $56,000 in need-based grants. And if you guys want some more context, right, you can see, well, why is that? Okay, if I click on this financial aid tab, it's going to show me, here's the institution's methodology. Here's how much need-based financial aid that they meet. Okay, let's look at another one here. Give me a second. Let's look at Howard. Okay, let's look at Howard University. Okay, in DC here. Okay, $55,000, and we're going to get some discount that puts us at about $40,000. Well, why? Well, okay, we're going to get some need-based grants here, but really smart kid, we're going to get a merit-based scholarship. And what's important to note here is that for every college in the country, we have every scholarship that they offer, the qualifications for each, and we're really good at projecting how much is your kid going to get, if anything, in the way of a need-based scholarship. And then we want you to take that knowledge, right? This advanced school search tab, it's going to help you figure out what are the admissions fits that also align with the financial fits, right? So if you know that you want to be pretty close to home and you're more comfortable in a smaller school and you think you want to know what you want to major in, and there's any other filters you could put in there, now I can just go sort based on who's going to give me the most in financial aid, right? And it will instantly rank order those for you guys. Now, if you're not eligible for need-based financial aid, you can say, just go show me that criteria, but they're going to give my kid a scholarship, right? And maybe this is my alma mater, Stonehill. Maybe we weren't talking about Stonehill, but if they're going to give me $32,500 regardless of my financial situation, let's take a closer look. So these are just this is just kind of a fraction of our platform, but it's the part that we want you leveraging right now, kind of in these early stages of the process. And if we have time, Peg, and I doubt we will, because I got some questions about having that kind of like affordability conversation with your kids, which we love those questions. Maybe we'll get a chance to show that before we cut out, but I want to make sure we stick to the task at hand.
Oh yeah, I'm loving that. Being
I know you are.
my little nerdy background. I love the having that talk with your kids is huge. Okay. So let's keep going here. So now we want to talk about net price calculators. So in case that's a new term for you, basically the government required these for all colleges to have them on their website back, I think it was 2010. And the goal of this was to bring more transparency to how much it was actually going to cost you, to simplify financial aid, to help you make good decisions, and hopefully this would create less debt, right? One could argue that's working or it's not. So let's talk about a couple that I'm going to give two examples here. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but there are some really great net price calculators out there. So there's Clark University. This is just a screenshot of the beginning of it. It will give you a pretty reliable result. You're going to have to answer about 70 questions to get there, but that's a good one. On the flip side, the government provided a federal template when they told the colleges they needed to do this. And unfortunately, the federal template is not really good. It's the other side. It doesn't ask enough data. So if you are going to a net price calculator, you see this, that is your trigger, like, hey, this is what Peg was talking about. This is the federal template. You'll catch on. They don't ask enough information. It's basically not worth your time. Not slamming Gonzaga and American University for using it. I'm just trying to get everybody here to understand that it's not going to be beneficial for you to go through and actually do these net price calculators. Were you doing this one, Matt?
Sure, I'll jump in here quickly.
Yeah.
So we did a really exhaustive study, right? Our data team were I mean, so lucky to have them. They're at the kind of root of these projections. We got 4 really talented individuals just live in the data. And one of the studies that they did for a presentation, Peg and I probably did about a month ago, was to test a huge range of net price calculators from all over the country, big school, small school, public, private, the whole deal, and see how accurate are they, how accurate are we, and kind of compare them against one another, right? And it was incredibly gratifying because with incredibly few exceptions, we were more accurate than the college's net price calculators. But it's also important to note, no college has their own net price calculator. They all outsource them to a third party, right? So it kind of makes sense. And Peg, I think, talked about, at least briefly, the fact that they're not regulated. They don't have to be updated since 2008. So it's no wonder that a lot of them are just not reliable, accurate, etc. I don't think it's, there's bad intentions there. I just think it's something that doesn't get prioritized. And this is just an example, right? And we're looking at Northeastern University here, and for three families that had these three levels of SAIs, one with a $10,000 SAI, one with a $31,000 SAI, one with a $74,000 SAI. And what we did was we projected, what CAP projected versus what Northeastern's net price calculator projected versus what the actual award was. And you can see in every circumstance, we're almost right there. We're very, very close to where, again, in some of these cases, Northeastern's estimates are over $20,000 off, $25,000 off, $27,000 off. So again, we love Northeastern. It's an amazing institution. It's their co-op program, they produce thoroughbreds. So this is not a knock on the institution. Okay. It's a knock on the net price calculator, essentially. So, which again is not theirs. If you want to go to the next slide here, Peggy, and this is just an example. You see a whole bunch of logos on here, but this is just a small representation of the amount of colleges in which their net price calculators do not account for merit at all. They don't even take a stab at what the student might be eligible for in terms of merit-based scholarships, which again is especially challenging if I'm one of these families that's not eligible for need-based financial aid or not much need-based financial aid. I can't even get a rough indication if my kid might be eligible for merit at these colleges. Again, we're not here to knock any colleges. These are the facts.
Yeah, and in their defense, I don't even think that was part of the mandate that they had to show merit. Some schools just do. So,
Right. Yep.
All right, so let's get into kind of the boring stuff here. It's more about how you're going to do this and what are the forms and how are they different. So basically, every school in the country is going to require the FAFSA. Almost every school. There's about, 8 or 10 of them that don't. But basically, assume you need to submit the FAFSA. There's a second form called the CSS Profile. We'll talk about that in a minute. Across the board in this process, so you're used to this with your kids, deadlines really, really matter. So make sure if they're not good about deadlines with their high school work and everything, this could mean tens of thousands of dollars to your family. So you got to stay on top of this, help them develop that skill set because they're going to need it in college, right? And you want to be on top of it because the colleges may or may not communicate, and they might only communicate with your child. So just keep that in mind. You got to be on top of those things because you might be leaving money on the table. So the FAFSA that we both referenced, the free application for federal student aid, I have explained about the prior year. That's the year you're going to be reporting on for income. There's a one-time timeline change this year. Matt's going to talk about it in a minute. There's a FAFSA Simplification Act. So there's some pretty major changes that have come down. So the FAFSA, what the Department of Ed is telling us, it's going to go live in December. We don't know when. When we know, we will tell you. It's not something to get stressed about, honestly. Take a deep breath and realize every family is in the same boat. All these colleges are in the same boat. Nobody knows when this is going to go live. So it is what it is. When it comes to the FAFSA, only the custodial parent, if you are divorced or separated, and separated means you're in separate households, is submitting the FAFSA with the student. The definition of the custodial parent is the parent that provides the most financial support. That's one of the changes that Matt's going to touch on in a few minutes. So if you have an older child, forget about the old definition. This is the new definition. Doesn't mean that the parent that pays child support is definitely hands down that parent. If you're 50-50, which a lot of families are telling me they are, that's awesome. Figure out which parent is better to submit the FAFSA and have that parent spend a little bit more money on your child. There's definite gray area here. Take the time to figure out who provides the most financial support. That could mean tens of thousands of dollars coming from a college endowment to you if you take that time. So that's the key takeaway there. Right now, if you have a 2024 child, you should go get your FSA ID, Federal Student Aid ID. The parent's going to need it, and Department of Ed is recommending if you're married, both parents get it, and the student is going to need it. You're going to need it every year. You have to submit the FAFSA every year, and the CSS profile most likely every year as well. So go ahead and get that. It takes a few days to process. You'll have it, put it somewhere secure, and you'll be good to go. That piece of the puzzle is taken care of. All right. Now I'll let you take over here, Matt.
Great. So look, obviously I think most of you have probably got wind of at least some of these significant FAFSA changes. These are the biggest changes we've had in higher education in decades and decades anyways. There's some wins here, there's some losses. We'll start with the wins, okay, and skip right down to number 5 here, and this is the big one. And the best thing, certainly, to come out of these changes, and that is families that need the most help are getting more help, right? In a couple of ways. Number one, money. The Pell Grant, the actual dollar amounts that families can get via the federal program has increased. The thresholds in order to qualify for those have increased, okay? And the other one is that the process itself, at least in theory, and we're optimistic here, the FAFSA form is going to be easier to complete. So, yeah, one of the most heartbreaking statistics that we always talk about internally is 2/3 of low-income families start but don't complete the FAFSA traditionally, right? Which is guaranteeing they're not getting any need-based financial aid. A lot of these are first-generation families. A lot of them are kids that are trying to do this on their own, 17, 18-year-olds that can't navigate a sophisticated form. So we're really excited about these changes. Some other, I think, less impactful but still positive changes. 529s, like Peg mentioned, they're only going to count for the student in question. Any contributions we make towards our 403Bs, our 401Ks at work are no longer going to count against us. So these are great things, okay? But some of these changes, it's really, really hard to find a silver lining. And I'll go up to 2 and 3 here. And this is, again, kind of been our biggest battle cry. And that's the fact that families are no longer getting any consideration if they have more than one kid in college at once. The long and the short of that means that in effect, whether you have multiples or you just have kids that are going to overlap for 2 years, right? A senior and a sophomore in high school right now that are going to both go off to college, and you're going to have 2 overlapping years. The formula no longer accounts for that. So effectively, a lot of these colleges, the cost is going to double for these families, right? So it's really disheartening for us. We did everything we can to try to make an impact there. We got 70,000 signatures, but it's going through. The only, I shouldn't say only, but it's not all doom and gloom there, because there's still a ton of schools that are going to keep the sibling discount. They're still going to honor that. Most of the schools we're finding, and hopefully it's all, but at least most schools that use the institutional methodology, the CSS profile schools, are going to keep that. So again, that is, it's not like it's 100% of the schools, but it's most of them. Okay. The other 2 things that are really noteworthy here. Number 1, divorced or separated family. Peg talked about it, but now the household that completes the FAFSA is the one that provides the most financial support to the student. Be smart about this, guys. Use it to your advantage. The theory of the Department of Education is that families are going to get less financial aid because presumably the parent that provides the most financial support has the higher income, more assets, going to give you the higher SAI and less financial aid. Okay. You have an opportunity to be strategic here and see to it that the one that provides the most financial support to the student is the one that has the lower income, lower assets, lower SAI, more financial aid. You still have time, but you still have time. We know the FAFSA is not going to be accessible until at least December. So let's be smart. Okay. And number 4 here, and this one's really, really tricky. I mean, all these people being impacted by the changes, we want you to be talking to us. We want to make sure that you're not stepping on some of these landmines that are going to be easier and kind of bigger to step on. But business owners, it used to be if you had less than 100 employees, you didn't put anything on the FAFSA about your business, that's gone. Now, even if you're a sole proprietor, you have to put the net worth of your business on the FAFSA. Please do not put a number there and submit the FAFSA without talking to us, honestly, please, because we are going to make sure that parents and families, and especially business owners, are not screwing themselves with how they answer that question, quite frankly. And you can go to the next one here, Peggy. So you've heard us, right? FAFSA, but we've also talked about the CSS profile. That's been, I've answered a lot of questions about the CSS profile in the chat. Less talked about, less publicity, but the colleges that require this form, again, let's call it 300 colleges. It's the only thing that matters in terms of figuring out how much aid you're eligible for or not. It is the dictator that's going to determine whether you get aid and how much or not. And especially for these, you guys, we're going to transition. The last thing we're going to spend some time on is EA versus ED versus regular decision. A lot of these colleges that have these November 1st, November 15th, December 1st deadlines, families are wondering, well, how am I going to know what I'm qualifying for financial aid when the FAFSA is not out till December? They're going to do it for the schools that have it, all based on the CSS profile. You will still have to complete your FAFSA eventually, but that's going to be a formality. Okay. For those of you that have not been through this process, but you've heard your friends talk about what a nightmare it is, I think they're more talking about the CSS profile. I mean, something Uncle Bill, my dear friend and our good buddy at College Aid Pro here, he always likes to say how we articulated it was, look it, you can get through the FAFSA with a beer or two, glass of wine or two. CSS profile, you need at least a bottle. You might need to break into the hard stuff. I mean, this is what gives you fits, right? Now, obviously, this is that little tidbit of advice is for 21 and above only. I'm talking to parents, not any students. Should you be on here? But that's, I think you could probably get the picture. Several hundred questions, very invasive questions, nuanced questions. How much can I pay for college each year? Nobody knows how to answer that. You know, and again, for divorce separated two household families, most schools that require the CSS profile are going to require the CSS profile from both parents, okay, divorced or separated. If you are a family that you just can't, you have a parent, an ex-spouse or whatever, whether you're married or not, that's just not cooperative, you don't know where they are, whatever, but you're applying to a school that requires them to complete the CSS profile, you need to have that conversation directly with the college and apply for something that's called a non-custodial waiver, where they don't hold this against you. And yet the CSS profile is accessible now. This is something that came out October 1st, and you know, we can get into it now. All right, Peggy, let's I think that, so let's talk about this a little bit. I mean, obviously you guys can see some statistics here, right? Applying early, whether it's early action or early decision, it becomes, we've been on the front lines for this over the last, I don't know, 10 years anyways. Every single year, we're trending upwards in terms of folks applying early. Again, whether it's early decision or early action. And just very quickly, for those of you that are not familiar with these terms, early action, we can apply early action to an unlimited number of colleges, okay? For those that offer it, we're not beholden to any of them. We just find out earlier in the standard timeline, A, whether we've got in, and B, usually we find out earlier what our financial offer is. So it accelerates this timeline, gives us more time, again, usually before we have to formally tell a college where we're going on May 1st, okay? Early decision, we can only apply early decision to one school, and we have to sign an agreement, sign a contract, essentially, that says, if we get accepted to your school, we're going to go there, okay? Now, you're not signing up for the military, but it is something you want to take seriously before you actually sign that agreement and go down that road. And again, it's a really hard question that we get multiple times a day. Should we go early decision? Should we not go early decision? I will talk about how I articulate answering that question. Peg can put her own spin on it, although I think we're pretty aligned. But here's how I answer that question, right? Number one, I look at it like you have to check two big boxes with a lot of confidence as a family. Number one, this is where your kid wants to go. They've been one of those lucky, I think, smaller percentage of kids that had this like, aha, visceral response. This is where I need to be. Okay. And you know, borderline beyond a shadow of doubt, this is where they want to go to college. And then as parents and as a family and students, hopefully, we have an understanding of about how much that college is likely going to cost us, right? So we've done College Aid Pros, our net price calculator. We've done the college's net price calculator. Okay. And we've looked at that number and we've said to ourselves, you know what? I think we can live with this. If you can check both of those boxes with a lot of confidence, this is where our kid wants to go and we're comfortable with the expected cost at this college, bombs away. Let's go. You know, you have our full support and blessing. If you're hesitant, if you're wavering, if there's not a lot of confidence in both of those boxes, to me, I'd probably discourage the early decision in those cases, right? And again, some pros versus cons, early decision. Yes, it at most colleges, it shows that the acceptance rate is marginally higher, is a little bit higher. Yes, we could lose some negotiating power, right? The ability to appeal because we can't show better offers from other colleges because we told this college we're going there if we're accepted. It doesn't mean you can't negotiate appeal successfully. We do it all the time, but it's harder. There's no question because you do in fact have, less leverage. So I think that's my piece, Peggy. I don't know if you have anything to add there, and I know you have some. I think some a slide or two on it yourself, but
I would just say a lot of people, it helps with admission, but as Matt said, I'm in the same camp. Like, you really have to be sure this is where your child wants to go. And in my opinion, there's no excuse to say, oops, I couldn't afford it. It's not good for your child because your child went through it, got in, and now you're going to say, sorry, you can't go. Know that ahead of time. I do want to, people have written in asking about appealing. You can appeal ED. I've done it successfully. It all depends on your appeal, right? So, but yeah, I love EA. I made both my kids, not all schools have it, so keep that in mind, but I made them finish and do EA. It's just, they're done sooner, they hear sooner. Statistically, more merit is given out, not tons more, but there's a merit bucket and they start giving it out to the kids they want as they come in. So I'm a huge advocate for EA from a financial aid side and admission side. So just to wrap up here, net price calculators and early decision. As I just said, you really need to know, and Matt said it too, that you can afford this school because you're signing contracts and you're asking the counselor to sign a contract. And it's kind of egg on the counselor's face, right? If you're pulling out, and that might hurt them down the road with other kids applying to that school. So it's just not good practice. From what we've shared and from what we've seen time and time again, you've got to be really careful to just go to the net price calculator and say, all right, I did it and it said this or it said that. And I just want to tell a quick story about a mom last year. She was doing all the right things. They were looking at a school. She was in our software and we were saying, hey, you're going to get about $30,000 in grants. So she had need-based eligibility according to CAP. The net price calculator was saying you're paying full price. And she said to me, what the heck, Peg? There's such a difference. And our data team did the digging. I went to the net price calculator. I put in all different scenarios. I couldn't get that calculator to ever show that this family was going to get money. And so I told her, look, I don't think it's right, but CYA for me, I said, look, you've got to be willing and able and have a plan to pay full price. So she did it all. She went in, she applied, he did ED, got in. Sure enough, the boy, he got 31,000 in grants. So we were spot on. And this college's net price calculator, for whatever reason, was not functioning, right? So they're hurting themselves a little bit, the colleges, because she was very mad when this happened because she said, we went to other net price calculators and took them off the list based on the results. And if I hadn't talked to you about this school that was his favorite, we would have done the same. So please keep that in mind. Some colleges will do pre-reads. They used to do them years ago, much more than they'll do now. What that means is you can submit your data and they'll tell you what you're going to get. So I just a cautionary tale of be careful with the net price calculators. If you're divorced or separated, if you read all the legalese, which nobody does, before you go in and put it in, it basically says you can't necessarily count on this to be accurate. So I think you get where we're coming from here. They're out there, but just be careful. Just be careful when you use them, and definitely get into our software and compare them, and so you get the best data that you can. So that's our net price calculator summary here. So at this point, my message that I'm going to turn it over to my buddy here is just keep the ball rolling. Whatever you do, if it's staying tuned into us and our webinars, or line by line webinars that are coming up, or the financial aid forums, all the support that we offer, or take advantage of whatever level of support that we offer that resonates for you, but do something. Don't take all of this, stick it over in a pile and say, that was lovely, and get back to your busy life. Because from parent to parent, it's going to kick you in the butt. It really is. You've got to stay in this process. And I know it's hard. And if you really don't have time, we can step in and support you in a pretty major way. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Matt.
And
Did
that's
you put this in the chat? Did you put this in the chat?
I did not. I did
Okay,
not.
I'll put this in the chat.
So that's the theme, right, guys? It's like, look, when you're staring at these very intimidating sticker prices, $90,000+ per year, the last thing you want to think about is spending any money. But this is the best. Investing in us is investing in you and your family and your kids, and that's exactly what this is. And we feel very strongly, I think our evolution, has been that no matter who you are, we have a solution for you, right? We have the ability to maximize the odds that you are going to come out of this with the best outcome possible for your family. Now, the first two buckets here, okay, and I'll get to the last one because it's not for everybody, but I think these first two buckets are essentially for everybody, okay? Because if you, let's put it this way. If you think at any point in the next year, you would want to talk to an expert, it could be myself, it could be Peg, it could be the former director of financial aid at USC, that's JP Schmidt on our team, the director of financial aid at Harvard, at MIT, lifelong professionals in this space, admissions and financial aid. At any time, if you want to talk to somebody for an hour over the next year, sign up for this premium plus expert package, okay? And if you do it today, you have to do it today, guys. You get 20% off. So for $279, you get the full access to our platform. So we showed the platform earlier. You guys are on the free version, but it only allows you to put 3 schools in there. You can't do the advanced search that allows you to sort based on who's going to give you the most in financial aid, who's going to give your kids the most in scholarships. So if you say, you know what, I'm a total DIY person, I don't need to talk to anybody, at least have the best tool on the planet and upgrade. And again, same thing, use the fall 20 coupon code, upgrade to that. And again, you're maximizing your odds of having the most successful end result. Even if you say, you know what, I'm going to go find a couple schools that are going to give my kids a great deal and just use it as leverage when I go to appeal at the end of the game, right? We're talking about $119 to $279. I'm not minimizing that cost, but I just want you to, again, this isn't the place to save a couple bucks, okay? Now, for some of you, we have what we call our Wake Me Up When It's Over services. We're only going to do 5 of these, okay? So the first 5 people to purchase these today will get it at this price because we're almost closed for the season. For the class 2024, we can't take on any more families in this capacity. So there is urgency there. And again, we are rewarding our live folks here. So you got to sign up today. Use fall 20, you get $500 off. And I'll talk through what this looks like specifically here, because there's 3 different types of packages that we have. Now, the first one is financial aid only. So if you're just look at, and again, this is for families that, and I know for some of you, the price point might not be a consideration, but for those of you that think it might even be palpable, this is where you're going to get the most ROI. This is how you're going to make sure that you're not overpaying for college. And for a lot of folks, these are families that are just like, look, I don't have time for this. I know it's at stake and I don't want to screw this up. I just want professionals to take the wheel and do this the right way, right? My kid has done their part. I want to do our part for them and for us. So the financial aid only piece right now, we're going to get in there. We're going to take a look at your list of schools and say, what other schools should be on here based on, your kid, based on their interests, based on who are the competing schools, right? Who are our direct competitors? We complete the FAFSA and CSS profile for you. You don't have to touch those forms, okay? It's like having a great CPA, right? It's not just about completing the forms and us managing the deadlines and who needs what, where, when, how. It's making sure that we qualify for the maximum amount of deductions, okay? It's something we're very good at. And then we're leading the charge on the appeal process, right? We get to leverage our whole team of experts to say, we got this offer from the University of Chicago based on how they do business. How do we go back and get more money? And then finally, we help you figure out, well, how am I going to actually pay this bill, right? Even if we're wildly successful on the front end of the process, for most of you, we still have to come up with this meaningful amount of money. If we have savings, it matters if we use 529 first versus UGMA versus grandparent contributions. Let's get that right. If we don't have savings or we don't have all of it and we have to borrow a percentage of this, that's mission critical. Even borrowing 1% more over the course of the life of these loans and the amount of money we're borrowing is tens of thousands of dollars difference, right? We're going to show you who's going to give you the lowest loan. Should it be in your kid's name, the parent's name? Is it both? Is it public, private, some combination? We want to get that piece right. And then we have an admissions package, right? Now, keep in mind, guys, these are all $500 if you get them today, but we can only do 5. It looks like we got 3 off the shelves. There's 2 more here, guys, but the other packages here are the admissions package, which is, again, one-on-one admissions expert, 15 hours just working with your kid, making sure that we are crushing the essays. The essays are more important than ever this year. This is where we can be really helpful too, to say you should send the test scores here. Don't send them here. Definitely send them here. Definitely not here. It's incredibly rare that we will advise families to send test scores to every school or no school. 80% of the families we work with each year, we send them to some, we don't send them to others, right? And it can have a huge impact not only on admissions, but the financial piece as well, specifically merit. And then we have a combo package where you're working with somebody full-time, financial aid, helping out parent or parents, taking over the wheel there. And admissions, you have somebody working full-time with your kid taking over there, right? And we do that at a discounted rate. I understand that's a high price point. It's not for everybody, but the value is tremendous. And, we've proven it for many, many years over, many times over. So, again, take advantage of this today. I know these packages are not for everybody, but regardless of who you are, do something, right? You owe it to yourself. You owe it to your kids. Like, you will be grateful that you made some type of investment here. Again, I think the Premium Plus Expert, at a minimum, do that. Don't overthink it. Do that. You will thank yourself. If it ended up being a bad decision, come talk to me personally. You can write into support@collegeaidpro.com and say, Matt, I didn't have a good experience, and we'll make you whole there, but I'm unbelievably confident you will. The other thing is here, if you are just meeting us, okay, and you love the idea of one of these Wake Me Up When It's Over packages, you want to get one of these last couple that are available. Obviously, it's a huge price point, right? Especially if we haven't established that level of trust yet. If you're just meeting us, buy the package today and then write into support@collegeaidpro.com and say that you want to have a gut check call with somebody. So whether that's myself or somebody else, one of my right hand guys or gals here over the next potentially today, tomorrow, beginning of next week, you can buy that package today and then have a gut check call with, again, one of us to make sure that it confirm any kind of doubt that you have, make sure it feels like the right decision. If you leave that call, today, tomorrow, Monday, Tuesday, and you're like, you know what, having learned more and having talked with me or somebody on my team for a little bit, it doesn't feel right, no questions asked, we'll give you a full refund, whatever. But if that helps you get you over the hump, I'm happy to offer that, because I get that it's a huge leap, especially if we are new to you and your family. Yeah, but that's it, guys. I mean, again, the main theme is just do something. You'll be happy that you did. And I think we're obviously biased, but you're working with the best technology in the world, the best, most experienced team in the world around all this stuff. And this is what we do, and we do it with a lot of pleasure. Believe me, we're trying to, we do this because we want families to have great outcomes. And I think we're pretty good at it.
Yep, definitely stay engaged. I put the coupon code in the chat as well. We did our best. We're just not going to get to all the questions. I was, pounding away here, and so was Matt. So,
And let me be so if you want to if you want to buy the Premium Plus Expert package, guys, you can go into the platform, and at the top here, you're going to hit Talk to an Expert or Upgrade. Okay.
yeah, it's probably going to say upgrade. Yeah.
Upgrade, and then you will have the option to go do the Premium Plus Expert, software plus expert package. You will see that on there. Use a coupon code. If you haven't created your account, just go to mycap.collegeaidpro.com. And when you go to create your account, you have the ability to sign up for that package, and then to sign up again for any of our Wake Me When It's Over packages. I will put that in the chat again here. Let's see. Here's the MyCap page. Here's the and then just use the what is it? Fall 20 coupon code.
Yeah.
And anybody that buys one of the Wake Me packages today, and we have one left, guys, so there is some urgency there. And you want to have a gut check call with myself or somebody on the team after the fact to make sure that it's right, I will be happy to accommodate. Yeah. And again,
somebody said they don't see something. You put it in. Yeah, it is in the chat. So just check the chat.
Yeah.
Everything's in there. And you're going to get this in the follow-up as well.
Right.
Yeah, but just keep in mind about the deadline. So, all right. Well, hope this was hugely helpful. Seeing a lot of thank yous. So we always appreciate that. And have a great rest of the day. And we will see you next time, if not sooner.
Bye, guys. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye-bye.